Hi! If you're watching this video, it might mean that you're frustrated with where you're at in your language learning process. You might feel like it's impossible to ever learn a language. And if that's true, if that's the case, then I think you should just give up. Just quit. Actually, bye. That's the whole video. I'll see you later. I'm kidding. I'm obviously kidding. No. It is very, very normal to feel frustrated when you're trying to learn any new skill. But learning a language, that level of frustration can feel like it's at an all-time high. And that's because when you're learning a language, you're literally rewiring your brain to think in a different way that you've never thought in before. And that is a massive undertaking. When you're learning a language, you are creating paths with different neurons, different ways of transmitting information in your brain in a way that you've never had to do before. So of course, it's normal and actually quite healthy to feel frustrated when you feel like you're not making any forward progress, when you feel like your momentum has come to a standstill. I'm going to tell you some things that I personally do whenever I feel frustrated or unmotivated to continue learning Spanish. Right now, I'm learning Spanish, and it's the first language I've ever had to learn besides my native language of English. There are days when I'm learning Spanish that I don't feel like I'm making progress. I don't feel very motivated to learn. And I think one thing that's important to always keep in mind is remembering why it is that you want to learn the language. If you have a good reason behind wanting to learn another language, on the days that it feels hard, you can push through. You can keep going because it's easier to see that the end result will be worth it if you just keep going. But if your reason for learning another language is unclear, it can be harder to see the bigger picture. It can be harder to keep going because it doesn't feel like the goal you're working towards is concrete. It feels a bit abstract. Another thing that I think is really important to get through those days without as much motivation is to make sure you're not always forcing yourself to do things that don't feel fun. Sure, listening to my videos or listening to other comprehensible input videos is usually pretty fun, but there are some days where it feels like work. It feels like a slog. And here are a couple things that I do on those days that I'm just feeling awful about learning Spanish or learning whatever language. I rely on my genuine interests. What do I like? I love talking to people. It's what makes me feel motivated. So, on the days where I'm not feeling my best, I sometimes try to talk to my friends in Spanish more because talking to them motivates me to want to learn. Sometimes I'll talk to them in English to increase our connection and our bond, and other days I'll talk to them in Spanish to remind myself that I've already came a long way with the progress that I've made, and I'm able to communicate quite a bit, even if it's not always perfect. I feel like these friendships and these interactions with people help remind me of my why. Another thing I really like to do is I like to listen to music. When I'm listening to music in Spanish, I'm not always paying attention to what the words are saying, but it's part of learning that culture that surrounds the language. Plus, listening to music is just fun. I also like trying to listen to see if I understand the lyrics of the song. Sometimes I'm close, and sometimes I'm really far away. But it keeps my brain guessing, and it's fun compared to listening to videos sometimes. Another thing that I really like to do when I'm feeling like I'm in a slump is I like to think of a topic that I'm passionate about. It can be whatever topic, but I like to try and think of conversations in my head that I might have surrounding this particular topic. And I like to see if I know all the words that I would need to express that idea. For example, I really like rock climbing. Rock climbing is a sport that I participate in a lot in my daily life. So, if I'm not able to express myself and use words related to rock climbing, that's taking away a big part of my identity. So, whenever I'm feeling like I'm in a slump, I try to pick one of these areas of interest, whether it's rock climbing, music, friendships, personality tests, my cats, whatever area of interest I have, I try to look for words that I don't know. I will write out my thoughts in English and then mentally try to translate it to Spanish, which is the language I'm trying to learn. And if I can't find that mental translation, I'll look for ways to make those words a part of my daily vocabulary until it sticks. One example of this is the word for performance in Spanish. The word for performance. It's a word that I can never quite remember. So, as I'm trying to learn it, I look for all of the possible times that I can include it in my sentences or my thoughts to try and help the word to stick. Another example is I hurt my finger recently. I hurt my finger and I didn't know the word for hurt in Spanish. I didn't know the verb to hurt. So I made sure to tell as many people as I could in Spanish that I hurt my finger so that I could remember the word. These small things help progress your language learning skills further because you're immersing yourself in real world examples of things that you would naturally say over and over again until it gets to the point where you don't have to think about it anymore. You just know the word because you've heard it, written it, or said it so many times. Another thing that I like to do when I'm feeling unmotivated about my language learning journey is I like to watch cartoons. I find that watching cartoons in my target language is a lot easier than trying to watch shows with real actors or actresses. Cartoons have an interesting way of using the animations to tell a story. A big part of the acting in cartoons comes from the way the story is animated. So the animation tends to be very descriptive and usually depicts specifically what is being said in correlation to the dialogue. My favorite cartoon to watch right now at my level of current comprehension is Bob Esponja, or in English, SpongeBob. I actually never watched SpongeBob as a kid, and so I'm watching it for my first time in the target language I'm trying to learn, and it's been really fun. I watch this show on YouTube because it's a little bit fast for me to understand at my current level of comprehension. On YouTube, you can change the speed that the video plays back. You can change the playback speed, and you can fine-tune it specifically to whatever velocity you need the video to play back at, whatever speed. So I've been watching SpongeBob at 80% speed recently, and it's just about perfect for me to understand 80 to 90% of what's being said, the context of what's being said. I really enjoy watching SpongeBob, but I can't watch too much because after a while, his voice gets a little bit annoying. I think that, like any activity, finding ways to motivate yourself relies heavily on what's important to you. Are you a person that is motivated by interactions with others? Are you a person that's very motivated by a specific interest? Or maybe you have a goal with your target language that knowing your target language would help you achieve. For example, getting a job in your target language. I know that's a goal for many of my English learning friends, and I think it's a great goal to have. Whatever it is, whatever the reason is that you're trying to learn your target language, keeping that in mind and finding ways to make language learning fun is what's going to make it sustainable for long term. I'm a runner, and I like to think of language learning as a marathon, not a sprint. During a marathon, you need lots of endurance. It's not going to be useful to start off running really fast. You're going to get tired. You're going to slow down. You're not going to finish the marathon. Language learning is like this. You have to be slow and steady. You have to be consistent. You have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. You have to make sure that you're hydrating, that you're sleeping well, that you're eating right, that you're doing things to take care of your mind and your body so that you can prepare for the next day of learning a language. Language learning happens slowly over time. Yeah, you can make a lot of progress in a couple of months or maybe even a year. But to consistently learn over time is where the real success is going to be revealed. And if you're willing to have patience and put in the work over time, you are going to improve your language learning skills. I promise. I promise that if you're willing to truly put in the work that it takes to learn another language, you can do it. I know you can do it. Keep going. I think that you're doing awesome. I will talk to you all later. I hope you have a great day. Keep going. You can do it.